What's up everybody, it's your shot Buie. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button as I upload videos on a weekly basis covering the hottest topics in sports, especially if it is OU related. This is Ballin' with Buie. Day 1 of the NCAA tournament is now in the books, so let's jump right into the games. There was a lot of action, there were several upsets. My bracket is totally trashed. I mean, I still got my Final Four teams and championship game teams still in there, but my first round predictions were kind of wishy-washy. So let's jump in and talk about it. Baylor, number 1 seed, they got an easy win against the 16 seed. I predicted that game right, but the 8-9 matchup I got completely wrong because Wisconsin put it on UNC. And that is the first time that Roy Williams has lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament. They lost 85-62. They got absolutely stomped. Then we jump to the 5-12 game, also in the South region. Those first 2 games were in the South region. This is the 3rd game in the South region. It's Villanova versus Winthrop. I thought Villanova was going to get upset. They were able to hang on for the victory. They got a 10-point win, 73-63. Winthrop played good. Villanova just played better, clearly, because they won. I didn't expect them to win, but I still don't think they're going to make it far, because if they advance past the round of 32 and make it to the Sweet 16, they got to match up with Baylor, and I don't expect them to be able to get past Baylor if they make it there. And the next game that is 4 versus 13 is Purdue versus North Texas. I thought Purdue was going to win just based off their size, but they just were not able to utilize their size enough in this game. In North Texas, they were hitting shots, and I can't remember the guard's name, but he was hitting floater after floater, and he leads college basketball in the amount of floaters he has hit on the year, and he was absolutely destroying Purdue with it. And they got the upset 78-69. It was a pretty good game if you missed it. 6 seed Texas Tech, they were able to pull out the win against Utah State. It was close for a little bit, but then Texas Tech held a pretty good lead for the majority of the second half. And we got 3 Arkansas versus 14 Colgate. Colgate was actually up for a lot of this game, and then Arkansas had a big comeback, and they were able to pull it out, 85-68. I know the score isn't close. The score line is a much bigger gap than the play actually was during the majority of the game. Arkansas was able to move on and set up a big matchup between Arkansas and Texas Tech. It should be a good game. Let's see, Florida and Virginia Tech. This was the first game of the day, and I started off getting the first game wrong. I thought Virginia Tech was going to be able to pull it out, and they honestly should have. They kind of slipped up towards the end of the game. But yeah, I believe that game did go to overtime, and Virginia Tech just couldn't pull it out. They lost 75-70, and Florida moved on. And the big game of the day, quite honestly, was Ohio State versus our very own Oral Roberts University here in Oklahoma. No one expected this. Well, some people expected it, clearly, because there's still people out there with perfect brackets. Don't know how, but there are. But the majority of America did not expect this whatsoever. Ohio State gets taken down by ORU, 75-72. What in the hell happened? Ohio State looked really good coming into the tournament. I had my doubts a couple weeks ago, but then how they played in the Big Ten tournament, I was like, okay, the Ohio State that I've been watching is back. And then they show up and they do this. They lose in the round of 64 as a 2 seed against ORU. I mean, I'm ecstatic that ORU was able to pull off this upset because it's a big win for Oklahoma school. But it just completely destroyed a lot of people's brackets. I mean, I didn't have Ohio State in my Final Four, so it didn't completely destroy mine, but I had them making it all the way to the Elite 8. And now they're out, and I don't know what's going to happen. ORU, I mean, at this point, I just need to cheer for ORU to make it all the way to the Elite 8. Because Ohio State's already out, so go ORU. I hope they do beat Florida in that next game, and then I hope they're able to make it to the Sweet 16 and take down Arkansas or Texas Tech. I hope they keep on rolling. But moving on, Illinois, they absolutely destroyed their first matchup, 78-49. No big surprise there. Loyola Chicago beat Georgia Tech 71-60. Also no surprise there. This game, Tennessee versus Oregon State, I thought Tennessee was going to show up and play good. Tennessee has been kind of a hit or miss team on the season, but I thought this was going to be a hit because it's the NCAA tournament and it's win or go home. I thought you were going to show up and you didn't. You let Oregon State come in and beat you, and it was never close. They lost 70-56, and that scoreline tells you the truth because the game was never close whatsoever. And that's going to set up, Oregon State winning is going to set up an OSU versus OSU matchup as the Oklahoma State Cowboys were able to hold off Liberty 69-60. Cade Cunningham did not play good whatsoever. He had 1 point in the first half, and that is just not going to get it done. He should be thankful that they were able to pull out this win, because this next round against Oregon State is a much better basketball team. You pull 1 point in the first half and you will be going home. That will be the last time you put on the Oklahoma State Cowboy jersey. But we'll see what happens in that game, Oregon State versus Oklahoma State. Moving on, San Diego State Syracuse. I predicted Syracuse would get the upset. They did just that. Also another game that was never really close. They ended up winning 78-62, but they held a pretty solid lead for the majority of the game. And then 3-seed West Virginia was able to get the dub. Also a game that was close in the first half. West Virginia got a big lead in the first half, and then they kind of slipped up for a little bit, and then I think they had a 7 or 8 point lead at the half. But then they ended up pulling away in the second half and won 84-67. And the last game of the day to break down was last two games. Clemson versus Rutgers, a 7-10 matchup. I predicted 10 seed over 7, and that's what happened. Rutgers was able to pull out a close one. It was a close game down to the wire. They pulled it out 60-56. And then 2-seed Houston, they showed up to play. Houston, I thought was the worst 2-seed, and obviously that's not true when you're looking at it, because Ohio State lost today to ORU. So clearly Houston's not the worst 2-seed because they're still in the tournament. But Houston, they mollywopped their opponent 87-56. Didn't expect that. I mean, I didn't expect Ohio State to lose either, but I didn't expect Houston to show up and show out like they did. So there's going to be a couple good matchups in the round of 32. In the South and the Midwest region. Those were the two regions that were played today. I think Baylor's going to win easily over Wisconsin. I think Villanova's probably going to beat North Texas and move on. I think Arkansas can beat Texas Tech. And I hope ORU beats Florida to set up a matchup in the Sweet 16. And then in the Midwest region, you got Illinois versus Loyola Chicago. I think Illinois handled business there. OSU versus OSU. Oklahoma State should win that basketball game. But if Cade Cunningham does not show up and show out, they will not. But I'm going to pick the Cowboys, so we'll see what happens. Syracuse, West Virginia, that's how I predicted it. I got West Virginia moving on. And then Houston, Rutgers, that's also how I predicted it. And I have Houston moving on. So, missed a couple things today. The biggest thing that I missed in my bracketology was Ohio State. Sitting at 69%. On the success rate through day 1. Day 2 is going to be just as intense, I'm sure, with several upsets. I've predicted several upsets, and I'm sure there's going to be some upsets that I didn't predict. But I'll see y'all then. It's a good day 1. Deuces.